Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Signs and Wonders, the end times news. Well, not only end times news, but mostly is, I guess. Before we jump right into the news, I would like to give a shout out and a massive thank you to Lori Brown, David Nance, Andre Gilligan, Diana Hawk, Sally Scott. I hope I didn't mispronounce any of your names. If I did, I'm sorry. And to all my Patreons and everybody else who helps to make this channel possible, I just want to let you guys know that you're a massive part of this channel and helping me spread this message. Without your support, I couldn't spend the hours I do on each video that it takes to create and edit them. So you guys are really, really important and very amazing. So thank you so much. And also just any of you who help share these videos via Facebook or Twitter. Even if you just let the ads play for like 30 seconds, it's a massive help. So again, thank you all. And now let's jump right into it, shall we? Okay, welcome to your End Times News Report. My name, of course, is Nick, and by the time this video gets out, it will be July 7th, 2020. So you guys remember my last couple videos, which in China was included for their brutal persecution of Christians? Well, the Lord is just. That's all I will say. China. Floods, locusts, hail shaped like COVID, which is crazy, you'll see in a minute. Earthquakes, swine disease, as prophesied by Ezekiel. I will pour out my anger upon sin, the stronghold of Egypt, and I will destroy the wealth of No. I will set fire to Egypt. Sin shall writhe in anguish, and No shall be torn apart, and No shall face adversaries in broad daylight. That's Ezekiel 30:15-16. Near Noah scale floods endanger Three Gorges Dam. 33 days of consecutive rain in southwestern China have led to massive flooding and mudslides. While the Chinese government denies reports by experts that the huge Three Gorges Dam is in danger of collapse, they open the floodgates, sending torrents of water to flood cities downstream from the world's largest hydroelectric plant. Since June, more than 33 million people in 26 provinces have been affected by torrential rain, with many cities above and below the Three Gorges Dam submerged by floodwaters, calling into question the effectiveness and stability of the massive facility. More than 180 were killed and an additional 45 people are missing in the floods. After initially denying the floodgates had been opened, claiming that the dam was making full efforts to generate electricity, the Chinese government finally acknowledged that videos and images on social media were accurate in showing the floodgates releasing torrents of water for the first time this year. Officials warned residents downstream that they may be in danger of floodwaters if they live below the 4th floor in their buildings, as water levels could allegedly reach over 600 feet. German-Chinese hydrologist Wang Weilu told Radio France International on Monday the dam could collapse at any moment. Wang pointed out that the dam's design, construction, and quality inspection were all carried out by the same group of people, and that the project was finished too quickly using substandard concrete. An estimated 400 million people live downstream of the Three Gorges Dam. More than 40,000 people have so far been evacuated. Earthquake. On July 2nd, the China Meteorological Administration, or the CMA, issued a heavy rain warning on July 2nd across China for the 31st straight day. Now, it's important to note here that after a similar earthquake in the same region in 2013, a group of scientists from China University of Geoscience in Wuhan and St. Louis University, who happened to be conducting measurements in the area, concluded that a 7 to 8-fold increase of seismic activity in the region was due to pressure caused by the huge reservoir at Three Gorges Dam. A new pandemic. What can be seen as either irony or divine retribution depending on your inclination. One of the cities hard hit by the flooding was Wuhan, home of the Wuhan Institute of Virology and the epicenter of the coronavirus breakout that initiated the current global pandemic. Now, even if the new virus does not develop into a pandemic, and I pray that it doesn't, a swine flu epidemic possesses a huge threat to China. China is the world's largest pork consumer, accounting for more than half of global pork consumption. In China, pork is preferred over beef for economic and aesthetic reasons. The pig is easy to feed and it's not used for labor. Duck wars. China withholds anti-locust ducks from India. A plague of locusts that left much of Africa bereft of food returned this year 8,000 times larger, covering 13 countries and threatening several more. The swarm moved up into India, which has been suffering one of the worst locust attacks in nearly 30 years. China offered aid in fighting the invasions of pests, but only if India asked for it, and created conditions in order to receive aid from China. The two countries are currently engaged in a bloody border dispute in the Himalayas. The aid would come in a form of an army of locust-eating ducks, and I'm serious about that. China's credibility suffered when it failed to provide a promised army of 100,000 ducks to Pakistan in order to fight an infestation of locusts earlier this year. The swarm has now reached Nepal and may invade neighboring China from there. So what do you think, guys? Is China targeted by a wave of divine retribution? In addition to the woes I just mentioned, China was hit by a storm of coronavirus-shaped hailstones last month and a bizarre plague of darkness the month before. Just a few months ago, while the coronavirus was incubating in the wet market of Wuhan, Chinese doctors were struggling to prevent the bubonic plague from bursting forth as an epidemic. Only a handful of cases were diagnosed, but the disease has a horrifying history, and China is one of the few countries that is threatened by regular epidemics of the disease. Despite their efforts, 2 more cases of the plague cropped up again last week in the area bordering Mongolia, leading to a renewed quarantine. Now, the 6th plague in Egypt, guys, boils, may very well have been the bubonic plague, whose characteristic symptoms is like boils under the skin and lesions that form black ulcers. It shall become a fine dust all over the land of Egypt, and cause an inflammation breaking out in boils on man and beast throughout the land of Egypt. Exodus 9:9. Now let's talk about plagues in the end days. According to Jewish tradition, the 10 plagues will reappear before the Messiah. Rabbi Yosef Berger, the rabbi of King David's tomb on Mount Zion, explained this aspect of the Messianic process to Breaking Israel News, quoting the prophet Micah. "I will show him wondrous deeds as in the days when you sailed forth from the land of Egypt." Micah 7:15. In February, when the magnitude of the novel coronavirus was just becoming apparent, Rabbi Yosef Pinto, an internationally acclaimed Israeli mystic rabbi who currently lives in Morocco, made a statement about China being the target of divine retribution. The rabbi cited the prophet Ezekiel as his source. I'll read it again. "I will pour out my anger upon sin, the stronghold of Egypt, and I will destroy the wealth of No. I will set fire to Egypt, sin shall writhe in anguish, and No shall be torn apart, and No shall face adversaries in broad daylight." Ezekiel 30:15-16. Toronto restaurant says Zionists not welcome. B'nai B'rith Canada is calling on members of the Jewish community in Toronto to take action against a local establishment that has used anti-Semitic tropes and posted pro-terrorist content on social media. Foodbenders, a restaurant located in the Blordale neighborhood of Toronto, has turned its ire toward the Jewish community, B'nai B'rith Canada said in a statement on Sunday. On Instagram, the company has announced #Zionists not welcome and has further alleged that Zionists are Nazis. Foodbenders also deploys classic anti-Semitic tropes, saying of a Canadian Jewish group, "These people control your media and elected officials." On her personal Facebook page, the owner described Prime Minister Justin Trudeau as a Zionist puppet. Finally, said B'nai B'rith, Foodbenders has glorified terrorist Leah Khalid, who hijacked 2 planes in 1969 to 1970 as a member of the Popular Front for the Liberation of Palestine, or the PFLP. The PFLP is a designated terrorist entity in Canada. The sentiments expressed by Foodbenders and its owners are hateful and deplorable and have no place in the Canadian food industry, said Michael Mostyn, Chief Executive Officer of B'nai B'rith Canada. Brain-eating amoeba warning issued in Florida after rare infection case. A case of a rare brain-eating amoeba has been confirmed in Florida, according to health officials in the U.S. state. The Florida Department of Health, the DOH, said 1 person in Hillsborough County had contracted Naegleria fowleri. The microscopic single-celled amoeba can cause an infection of the brain and is usually fatal. Commonly found in warm, fresh water, the amoeba enters the body through the nose. The DOH did not outline where the infection was contracted or the patient's condition. The good thing is the amoeba cannot be passed from person to person, yet. Infections are typically seen in the southern US states. They are rare in Florida, where only 37 cases have been reported since 1962. Iran brags that new missile cities are a nightmare for enemies. We have underground cities which house vessels and missiles, said Brigadier General Alireza Tangrizi. In the Iranian rhetoric playbook, every failure must be met with an equal and opposite claim to some form of success. The failure of Iran to protect critical infrastructure, as well as a series of explosions at a missile factory and nuclear site over the last week, had a half-led Tehran to point to new missile cities as part of its arsenal, which makes it a nightmare for enemies. What is a missile city, and why is Iran talking about this now? I don't know. The comments were made Sunday by Iran Naval Chief Admiral Alireza Tangrizi, who said Iran has underground cities that house vessels and missiles. The entire shoreline of southern Iran has these weapons, he asserted. Most of these weapon systems are in the hands of the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, not the regular Iranian Navy. They consist of various marine forces, including units of the Basaj, reports the Iranian state media claim. They include 428 flotillas along 2,200 kilometers of coastline. The systems are concentrated at key areas along the Persian Gulf and facing the Gulf of Oman. Iran has carried out tests in the past with these fleets of fast boats and its missiles. Overall, the program appears linked to comments made in October 2019 by Ali Hasjadeth of the IRGC Aerospace Force about various underground missile sites. The so-called missile cities on the coast have been constructed on the shoreline or in facilities off the coast on islands and other areas. The full details on how they are run and whether the IRGC's Navy or aerospace elements run them is not clear. The bragging about the missile cities comes in the wake of a mid-June test of an Iranian cruise missile that was fired out to sea, which supposedly has a range of 280 kilometers. Iran also said in April it had increased the range of its naval missiles to 700 kilometers. However, Iran shot a missile in May that mistakenly hit one of its own ships, killing more than a dozen sailors. This is the other face of Iran's military program. In an attempt to increase capabilities and show off, Iran has made many mistakes and taken shortcuts. It shot down a Ukrainian civilian airliner in January, if you remember that. In early June, satellite photos also showed that Iran had reconstructed a large-scale model of a US aircraft carrier to practice destroying it. How nice. Alright, thank you everyone so much for watching. If this is your first time here, please subscribe and help me spread this message by sharing these videos anywhere you can. Thanks guys, God bless.